Well, hello again. This is the 24th of March 2026, and this is yet another Autie Thoughty, travelling Auties. 6 months after our trip to Birmingham, me and my son have finally got round to our second little city break, and we've been to York. Now, it's a place that I've been to many times in the past, but not for a very long time. Well, not for 8 years actually, not since my son was a small baby. I went to the Christmas market with my mum. Yeah, when I was young, I used to go quite often, just for days out, with friends or with my mum, and sort of see the sights and go home again after a few hours. But I haven't actually been there for a holiday. It's somewhere that's a bit of a drive from where I live. It's maybe about an hour in the car. So it's a day out, but not somewhere I really think of as a holiday destination. But having gone to Birmingham, it is, a big contrast. It's a very, very different sort of place, and somewhere that I'd like my son to see. Just sort of in the business of, showing him what different places are like. And also because it's a really interesting place. There's lots of just bits of castles and funny little old buildings lying around all over the place. And everywhere you look, there's something interesting. And it as I say, in big contrast to Birmingham, in that, the thing I noticed about Birmingham was that it didn't seem to have much in the way of history more than about 200 years old. In terms of the age of the buildings and things in the museum and everything, they're fairly recent history, really. Whereas in York, you're hard pressed to find anything less than 200 years old. It's very, very, very medieval. So we had 4 days there, and I found this ticket online. I looked in the past and found they had what they called a passport, which got you into Jorvik and the Barley Hall and Dig, which I believe used to be called Ark. I remember I went on a school trip to a place called Ark in York when I was about my son's age, actually. But that doesn't seem to be there anymore, but they have this Dig, which sounds very similar. We didn't get there, actually. It gets the passport gets you into Jorvik, Dig and the Barley Hall. So I went to book one of those, and I found they actually have another pass, which is more expensive, but it gets you into just about everything. It's just called the Visit York Pass. You can get one for 1 day, which is £60. I think you might struggle to get your money's worth out of that, especially if you have to travel. But they do a 3-day one, which is £100 for an adult, and I think £50-something for a child. So yeah, we did manage to make use of that. They do a 2-day one as well. I think that's about £80. And anyway, yes, it gets you in the overwhelming majority of attractions in York, and York has a lot of attractions. It's, again, in contrast to Birmingham, it's a really big tourist place. You can't move for museums and guided tours and people in costume and souvenir shops and just things to see and do. And yeah, it was. We had a very busy time, and I think that the good thing about having the pass as well, when you're with a small child, is that you can, if you go into a place and he's not interested and he just wants to go on to the next thing, it doesn't matter too much if you don't see everything, if you don't get your money's worth out of that one individual thing. Like we went into Fairfax House, which is an 18th century home that you can look round, and he wasn't that interested in it. They gave him a little a little activity sheet with things to spot in each room and so on. And he did that. He enjoyed that. But he wasn't that bothered about, looking at the architecture and the furniture and the artworks and things. And, he just wanted to get out and go and have his dinner. But it didn't feel like we'd wasted the entrance fee having the pass. So, yeah, we got there on the first day. And, well, as I say, we were there for 4 days. So we got there about lunchtime on the first day. I thought it's not worth activating the pass until tomorrow. So we just did all the free things on the first day. We walked around the walls. We looked in things like the market and the shambles. As I said, I've been to York before. I've got a bit of a patchy mental map of it. But, not so much that I could give a guided tour or anything like that. So just trying to get my bearings again. We were given a paper map in the hotel, and of course I had Google Maps with me. So that was all very helpful. And we sort of went through some streets I hadn't been down before. If I ever had, I couldn't remember them. Just had a look round, got the feel of the place. We went and got some sushi. My son's really keen on sushi, so we went to a sushi restaurant. And they're quite well off for sushi restaurants in York, actually, and Japanese restaurants generally. There's a lot of bubble tea about. They're quite into their East Asian food. I don't know if there's a big East Asian population there, maybe. Or if it's just because, it's such a big tourist destination. Yeah, they do have a bit of everything. Anyway, we got our sushi and went in. I wanted to have a look in a vintage clothes shop that we were passing. And so we went in, and I didn't find anything that I wanted to buy, but they were also selling off some Star Wars figurines. So my son decided he was going to use his spending money from Granny on one of these Star Wars figurines. And the guy who owned the shop actually popped into the back for a minute. He came out with like a Star Wars graphic novel. And he said, I'm just giving these out to kids who like Star Wars. So that was nice. That was lovely. Got some bubble tea. And it was one of these where you sort of you have to order on a touch screen thing. And then the waitress comes and gives it. But I somehow managed to break the touch screen. I don't know, it just completely malfunctioned when I tried to order a drink. So, I had to go up to the waitress and ask, and she was getting a bit confused, I think. I don't think anyone had ever done that before. And then a massive party of people came in, and they all had to sort of go to the desk and order. And, she was getting quite flustered. So, I'm not sure what I did there. And we went into this really interesting, I don't know if you'd call it a food court, maybe. And it was all made of containers, like shipping containers, that had been converted into little cafes and bars. So, we had a walk around that, and there was a little kids' play area there as well. We didn't buy anything, because obviously we'd already had some food, and we were on the way back to the hotel. But, that was something, worth a look at, that you don't see everywhere. We saw where some buildings were being knocked down, and they'd left up a sort of Art Deco facade. As I say, York is really interesting just to walk around and look at things. It's one of those, maybe it's lost on an 8-year-old, but certainly if I was there on my own or with someone my own age, we could just spend a day looking at buildings. And street furniture, they've got all the Victorian lampposts. Well, not all of them, obviously, but some of the old Victorian lampposts still in place, and some have been converted into electrics and so on. And just bits of medieval defences, and bits of castle still in place. One quite nice thing they've done as well, all the little telephone and electricity, the green boxes that litter the place, they've painted them. Some of them painted with pictures of wildlife, and some just with abstract patterns. I think that's quite a nice little touch. I like looking at them. Something that brightens the place up, It's a really interesting mix of people walking about as well. You get the feeling that, as I say, it's a touristy place. There's people from all over the world walking around. I couldn't say that there was a particular average York resident. There really was a very even mix of people. There seemed to be a lot of kind of alternative people walking around as well, like goths and, people who were following specific fashion movements and so on. I suppose there's quite a big student population as well, because there's a big university. It's not a big town in terms of permanent population. A lot of tourists, a lot of students, and not that many local residents. There seems to be quite a big gay community as well. You see little gay bookshops and gay bars and things all over the place as well. That's sort of quite nice to see, I suppose, as well. It's it's a very eclectic sort of place. There's kind of very historical things everywhere, and you don't see a lot of kind of very modern buildings, and you don't see a lot of tall buildings either, which is unusual for a city. Apparently, there's a law that nothing can be as tall as York Minster, so the Minster stands out above all the others. And we went up on top of Clifford's Tower, which I'll talk more about in a minute. And you can look out across the city and just not see a tall building other than a church spire. It's very, you don't feel like you're in a city at all. Again, in contrast to Birmingham, I felt that while I was walking around Birmingham city centre, I felt very much that it was people's home. People live and work there. And I felt quite at home and at ease there. In York, you feel very much that this is more of a holiday destination. That there's a sort of altered reality about it, and because of all these medieval things probably, and everyone you see is a visitor, and everywhere you look there's activities to do and touristy things going on. I think I don't know what it would be like to actually live there. My auntie lived there for a good few years, actually, in sort of late 80s, early 90s. I remember going to visit her, and she'd sometimes take us all into the city and do the walking on the walls and things. But I was only very small at the time. I didn't really appreciate it, I don't think, and I can't remember it all that well. So the first day we did all the things that I didn't need the ticket to do, and then we went back to the hotel and had a swim in the pool, and had a bit of a strange experience in the pool. Actually, there was a woman who lost her phone, and she came and sort of. I mean, I thought she was just panicking about losing her phone. She, I can't find my phone. Have you seen my phone? Where's my phone? I'm looking for my phone. Okay, fair enough. You've lost your phone. That's a bit scary. But then she started coming out. I've told the people at the desk, and they're going to look at the CCTV. They're going to phone the police. I was thinking, that seems a bit much. I just said to her, right, okay, and went to get dressed. And then my son was in the changing room, and he said that while he was actually getting his costume off and getting himself dry, she'd actually been in there asking him where this phone was. I thought, does she think that I or he stole her phone? What? That's very weird. I mean, maybe she was panicking and not thinking. I don't know, but that seems a bit much. Seems a bit extreme. Anyway, we didn't hear any more about that. yeah, so we went to sleep, we woke up. Next day we thought, right, well, I thought, right, let's get our use out of this York Pass. Now, the thing that my son really wanted to see, the thing he was really excited about, was the York Dungeon, which I went to when I was maybe 10 or 11 and was kind of scarred for life by it. But it didn't open until 11 a.m, whereas Clifford's Tower opened at 10. And I thought, well, if we get time, we might go down to do the boat tour up and down the canal and then go to York Dungeon. I sort of wanted to get the dungeon out of the way because I knew that it'd just be sort of, if we did other things before that, it'd be sort of going on and on about it, and being sort of not really concentrating on anything, just wanted to get to the dungeon. So anyway, we went to Clifford's Tower because that opened at 10 and it's quite quick. Again, it's something that I had seen before, but it's changed a lot since then. It was basically an empty shell when I saw it. There was a well in the middle where people had thrown coins down, and I remember there being a little notice board up saying that the coins were all going to be collected and donated to charity. And there wasn't really a lot to see. I mean, my mum said, she wished she hadn't done it because, she had to pay to get in, and it was just a shell of a building. It was a waste of money. But yeah, it's been sort of filled up with walkways now, so you can sort of walk across it and get up onto the roof. They put a roof on it, so you can look out across the city, and because it's on top of a mound, it's quite high up. Not a particularly tall tower, but it is raised from street level. You can, it's a really good view, and York's very flat, of course, so you can see a very, very long way. So it's worth doing. It's worth going in if you've got the voucher now. I think it's £10 for an adult ticket to actually get in, so maybe a bit more. It's English heritage, so you can get in if it's English heritage as well. Maybe a little bit expensive for what it is, but anyway, we did that. And then it was just about 10:30 when we came out of there, so the boat tour left at 10:30. So I thought, well, we won't rush for the boat tour, we'll do that another time. But as we were walking towards the dungeon, which, we still had a bit of time before it opened, so we were having a sort of leisurely stroll up, we passed the Army Museum. And my son's quite into tanks and things, so I thought, well, we'll have a look in here. It was also on the York Pass. And I was sort of expecting I wouldn't be very interested in that, but it was worth a look. It was worth a look. I didn't look at how much ticket prices actually were, but yeah, it was fine. It was, and good half-hour wander around. I was quite surprised actually by how much my son knew about tanks. They had a little display of tank models, and he was pointing to each one, saying, "Oh, that one's Russian, that one's German, that one's American." Yeah, he knew all the names of the tanks. Where does he get this from? I don't know. I don't know if he's been watching things on YouTube or where he's learned that from. But anyways, he knows all his tanks. He knows a lot of things about weaponry as well. Yeah, I can point to the guns and say which wars they were used in and things. So yeah, we went on to the dungeon, which I remember it being largely sort of waxworks and displays, but it's changed a lot. It's completely unrecognisable from how I remember it. You sort of walk from room to room, and in each room there's an actor telling the story of something that has happened. A lot of them are set in York or thereabouts. You start off in the Saxon age, and they talk about the Vikings coming, and then there's a bit of audience interaction, and you sort of gradually move on through the Middle Ages, up to Guy Fawkes. Obviously, he's a big local anti-hero, and it ends up with Dick Turpin, who's not actually from York, but he was caught and executed in York. So he's a sort of local personality as well. that's who we got a bit sick of hearing about in York. Yeah, in Birmingham it was we were there in September 25, so it was like Ozzy Osbourne everywhere you look. In York they're still celebrating Dick Turpin. Every pub you pass by has a little board outside saying, "Oh, Dick Turpin bought a pint for Robin Hood and Jesus here," and just everywhere you go, there's some little story about Dick Turpin did something here. Dick Turpin used this public toilet in 1736. Anyway, yeah, he really enjoyed that. He had a great time. I mean, I enjoyed it. It's definitely worth a look. I think the actors did a really good job. Maybe because we got there early on in the day. You know, they weren't sort of sick of doing the same story over and over again by the time we got there. Yeah, that was very very entertaining, I thought. What did we do after that? Just trying to think what the next thing we did was on the first day. I think we went in the York Castle Museum after that, because it's only just down the road. Now I remember the York Castle Museum being massive and spending about half a day in there. I don't know if part of it's been closed off or what, but it was a lot smaller than I remember. But it's in two parts. There's one that kind of goes through the last couple of 100 years, and it's showing off artifacts like most museums do, and then they've got this sort of really nice display, which it was definitely there when I went there with my auntie 30-something years ago. Instead of just having things in glass cases, they've got them in shop fronts. And they've arranged it like they've made a whole Victorian street, with the cobblestones and the horses and carts going down the street and things. And in each shop there's an array of Victorian artifacts, and you can walk down the street and see all the all the objects categorised. All the clothes in one, and all the clocks in a clock shop, and all the shoes in a shoe shop, and so on. So that's really nicely done, I think. And that they actually have storms. They have storms in the Victorian street. I think it's every 20 minutes. You hear thunder and lightning, and the lights flicker and things. So that's really nicely done. And they have slot machines, little Victorian and early 20th century, arcade, end of the pier type slot machines. They've been converted to take pounds or 50 pences, so they're all working. And you can actually watch these little shows they put on. The little dancing puppets and things, fortune telling machines. So you come out of that area, and then there's you go through the gift shop, obviously, and then there's an area where sometimes they have these exhibitions on. You go into it's all in the old prison, and you can actually walk into the prison, and it's done up so that you can walk into the cells, and there's films projected onto the wall where there's an actor reading out the account of someone who was actually in prison, a real life person. There is one of Dick Turpin. There's also people of lesser known prisoners that there are records of from the 18th century. So you can walk through all that area, and that's very atmospheric. That's interesting to look around. You can see all the graffiti that people carved on the walls and everything. yeah, there is a little exhibition thing as well, which is, at the moment it's the 1960s, showcasing loads of 1960s clothes and household appliances and things. So I found that very interesting. I'm not sure that my son did, but well, he knows the Beatles. He likes the Beatles. We like the Beatles in our house. There's lots of pictures of the Beatles up anyway. So I had a little talk to him about how society changed a lot in the 1960s. Sort of following on from the Second World War. People just wanted to sort of enjoy themselves and forget about the war, and there was a lot of new technology on the market that meant that people had electrical appliances to speed up the housework, and the sort of social change that came about because of all these new things that happened. People having more money, and the colourful fashions that started appearing, and because all the synthetic fabrics that were suddenly being invented and so on. So I don't know how interesting you found that, actually, but I really found that interesting. It's something that I personally have a certain interest in. And there was another exhibition about the First World War, which again my small boy is into, and he liked looking at all the uniforms and the guns and mock-ups of trenches and things. So yeah, we had a little drink and a snack in the cafe, and then by the time we'd done that, we just sort of crossed the road to Fairfax House, and then that was pretty much the end of the first day. We went back to the hotel and we watched a film about Dick Turpin, because of course Dick Turpin had a few mentions, and my son still didn't really know who he was, so we found a little film about Dick Turpin for him to watch. Second day, we decided we'd have a little walk along the walls up to where the station is. Railway Museum. Yeah, that's another thing that my son was interested in. He quite likes trains, so he had a little walk around there. He was quite entertained by that. And it's a very big place, the Railway Museum, but the exhibits are very large, so that there's a lot of walking about. There's a lot of walking up and down, looking at all these whole trains. If you're into trains, definitely give it a look. You can go inside a maglev and things. That's quite good. And there's they've got the rocket, and all the famous trains like the Mallard and the Flying Scotsman and so on. They're all there, or mock-ups of them. I'm not sure if they have the actually original ones or if they're recreations. So yeah, he enjoyed that. It's a lot of trains. If that's what you're into, give it a look. If not, you probably won't enjoy it. So we had a little walk over the river there into the park. And there's the ruins of an abbey in the park. You can just go and walk around. It's completely free. It's just part of the park. There's the massive, Gothic style medieval abbey that was, all destroyed in the dissolution of the monasteries, and it's just been left. And yeah, you can just walk around and climb on the remains of the pillars and so on. Walk through the arches. So it's quite nice doing that. There is another museum in the park as well, which I've never actually been in. So I sort of wanted to go in, but my son was saying he was tired and he wanted to sit down. So we went to look for a little cafe to have a sit down and a snack. We found this little cafe. It's just in one of the buildings in the wall. There's the city walls around York. Every so often they have these gatehouses, and some of them have been used to made into little museums and things. And we found one that was just a little cafe built into the old wall. And yeah, it had a glass floor, so you could look down and see all the foundations of the old building and things. And yeah, the cafe owner was very into Lego, and he'd done a lot of Lego Star Wars models. So yeah, my small boy was totally in his element there. I was sort of sitting chatting about Lego and Star Wars with the owner for ages. So yes, we were well rested after that, refreshed. We had some tea and cake, and he had some pop and a sandwich. Anyway, we had a little walk down there, and I sort of wanted to look in the art gallery as well, but again, he wasn't bothered. This is the limitations of having like an 8-year-old travelling companion. So we went down to the Minster. Now, the Minster, I think if you're an adult with several children, is worth going in because it's £20 for an adult and free for children. If you're just there on your own, it's a bit much. It's a cathedral. It's a cathedral. They've got a lot of nice stained glass windows and carvings and medieval doors, and you can go down into the crypt and see all the artifacts from the local saint, Saint William. And yeah, it's if you're into medieval cathedrals, it's good. It's a good example of one. But is it worth £20 to get in? Not sure. I mean, you can see all the windows and things from the outside. Apparently, if you really want to look in a cathedral but don't want to pay the entrance fee, the thing to do is to go to a service. It's free to get into a service, and then you can just stay in and have a little look round while you're there. But yeah, you're limited to when services are actually on. It was on the Visit York Pass. It was on the Visit York Pass, so we just used that. Okay, so after that, we decided to go and have a look for the Barley Hall. Now, I have been in the Barley Hall before. Again, it was a long time ago. I can't remember it that well. So we had a little look round for it. It's quite well hidden. You have to go through this little alleyway between a couple of little old shops, and it is signposted, but again, you have to be looking for it. And you get to this little courtyard, and it's a medieval house, like a kind of upper middle class medieval house. I think I think is it 14th century? I may be wrong. Anyway, you can go in and look around, and they've got all the artifacts from the people who lived there and things. But yeah, by the time we got there, it was closed. So we decided we'd go and have a pizza. We went down to York Ask. Has anyone ever been in the Ask in York? I mean, Ask is a pizza chain, Italian food chain. It's nice. It's if you like Pizza Express, you'll like Ask. But the one in York, it is in the old assembly rooms, which is a massive 18th century building that's got all marble columns and statues of Roman gods in it and things, and massive chandeliers, and it's a place you just go in to have a look at it, really. And yeah, we had some pizza. Well, my son had some pizza. I had seafood pasta. That was nice. I actually tried the local York gin as well. I think it gets a bit lost when you mix it with tonic. I think it's better just drunk neat. It's not, it's got a proper gin smell to it and everything, but the flavour just doesn't seem that strong with. Well, when you put a mix with it, it's nice on its own. It's nice on its own. I don't know how much it costs. I didn't check how much it cost for a bottle. it's served in all the restaurants and things. Anyway, we then went to the ghost bus. Now, York has a lot of ghost stories attached with it. You know, there's so many old buildings around the place, and so many myths and legends, and you know, people saying they've seen Dick Turpin over here, and they've seen Guy Fawkes in this building, and so on. And there's so many spooky old churches and things. It's there's ghost tours everywhere, and this one was set on a bus. So I thought, you know, my 8-year-old boy with his little leggies, he's going to be tired by the evening. He's not going to want to walk anywhere. Let's put him on a bus instead. And he was quite excited by this idea, actually. It didn't. There's been a lot of building work going on around the station. It wasn't exactly where it said it would be on the map, so it did take a little bit of looking for and asking at the information desk and so on. But anyway, we got there in the end. We got on the bus. That's not covered by the Visit York, and for the two of us, it was £32. So I got on thinking this had better be good. Yeah, it's like an old 1960s bus that they've done out with red velvet curtains and little lamps that flicker, and you know, black leather seats and things, so it looks super duper spooky. And yeah, it was good. It was. There's the guide's dressed up as a conductor, and they've got a driver as well who sort of plays his part, and the sort of interaction between the two of them, and you know, they have a bit of a story going on about how the bus breaks down. We've all got to get off, and they go and tell us a little story. And it's I don't want to give too much away in case anybody actually wants to do this. The chances of this are very small. This is not a travel blog. I'm looking to get about 30 views on each video. I don't know how many of them watched to the end. But yeah, it was entertaining. It was a good evening's entertainment. Was it worth £32? Well, that's how much it cost, wasn't it? Don't know how much they're spending on petrol these days. So yeah, then it was the walk back to the hotel, and my son just wanted to go back the quick way. And it was St Patrick's Day at the time as well, so it was very busy. Loads of people with the big green hats on, in a party mood. It was quite late at night, so it was a little bit scary going down the streets with all the nightclubs blaring out. But we got there. We got home unaccosted. And the third day we were just sort of cleaning up, really, all the things that we'd kind of wanted to have a look at but didn't get a chance to the previous days. First thing was Jorvik. Obviously, Jorvik is the thing that everybody asks if you've done when you go to York. So we had to go to Jorvik. I did go before when I was in year 3 at school. It has changed since then. It's I think they've redone the displays. There's a lot of things that I remember from then, like the fossilised poo. Everyone remembers the fossilised poo, don't they? You get on these little. I remembered it being like a train, but it was more like sort of a carriage that moves along the track. No, I'll start at the beginning. It's another of these where you have to book to get in. This seems to be a thing since lockdown. You have to. There's a lot of things you have to pre-book. But then you can pre-book the moment you turn up, so it doesn't seem much point. It just means you can't get in unless you've got a smartphone, which is annoying. I suppose it's annoying if you haven't got a smartphone. If you're out of data, if your phone's died, what do you do? Yeah, so you go down the stairs, you go into this room where you're sort of shown a little film, and there's an actor dressed as a Viking telling you the story of the blacksmith and his wife, how they're they had this day 1,000 years ago, and this is their house, and this is their outside the house. You can see their fire burning. You can see where the blacksmith was using his forge and so on. And again, there's a glass floor. You can look down. You can see all the actual Viking remains under your feet. And then you get on your little carriage, as I was talking about earlier, and the carriage sort of takes you around this big display. It takes you through a Viking village as it would have been 1,000 years ago. And a lot of the figures of the Vikings in the village are based on actual skeletons that have been found. And they base the houses on the actual remains that have been found in the ground there. And then you get off your little car. You've sort of gone around you've seen all the Vikings having one day in 960 or so. Seen all their shops and their houses, and seen them all at work, and the children playing games and things. And then you walk through the museum, and again there's more people in costume talking about the artifacts and showing you how things are used, and the skeletons on display, and these are actual people who lived here at the time. It's well worth a visit. Yeah, I can see why people rave about Jorvik. We went to the Merchant Adventurers Hall after that. We didn't get into the Barley Hall, which is the one that I wanted. It's quite a long walk from Jorvik to the Barley Hall, so I went to Merchant Adventurers instead, which is another medieval building that you can just go in and see how people lived in the Middle Ages. And again, it's not actually a house; it's like a meeting place, business centre, if you like, from the 14th century. It's got a little chapel, and it's got a more modern extension and things. It's got lots of old artifacts that you can look in and see. Oh, there's an Elizabethan chair, this is a medieval chest, and so. So yeah, that's again worth a look if you've got the pass. It's got a nice little cafe and a little garden you can walk around if you're into that kind of thing. So we're going to go down to the boat trip after that, but we were a bit early, so we decided to pop into this place called the Wonderful World of Professor Kettlestring, I think it was called. Now that's a strange attraction. Again, it's on the York Pass. It's on the York Pass, so we got in for the price of everything else. I didn't really know what to expect. I wasn't sure I hadn't heard of anyone saying they'd been there. The outside didn't give a lot away. I thought maybe it was like a science museum type thing. So we were invited in sort of one group at a time, one family at a time. There was nobody in when we got there, and there was another family right behind us. So there's us and them in at the time. The staff let us in and started telling this story of this inventor. It's all very steampunk. It's all steampunk themed, and so the staff member started telling the story of the inventor who, as a child, he got bored of folding his pajamas, and he wanted to invent a machine to fold his pajamas for him, but unfortunately the machine would fold the pajamas while he was still wearing them. And she just looked so bored of telling this same story. I sort of felt a bit sorry for her. And then they take your photo, I found this is something that I noticed in Birmingham as well. It's a big thing now. Every attraction they want to take your photo, and I think there's a lot of space given over to the photo taking, and multiple staff members, and loads of technology, loads of electronic gizmos. They take your photo next to a green screen, and then they at the end of the tour they show you your photos, and they put these sort of backgrounds on it, and it's sort of 20 quid for a photo of something you've not done. And I think it must be a big money. There must be a lot of people paying for these things when you think how much time and effort and space and staff time is given over to these photo books. As I say, they're all doing it. They were doing it in Birmingham as well. I've seen places in London doing it. Who was buying them? Anyway, they said, come on into the next room. And then it's completely unconnected. The story of the inventor and his pyjama folding machine's just completely forgotten about after that. It's all optical illusions, which I couldn't have guessed. From the opening. I think there's pictures up on the wall of all the famous illusions. The two faces that look like a vase, and the one where there's the woman looking over her shoulder and it looks like a witch, and so on. And things you can spin, little optical illusion, eye trick things, spin around these spinners, I suppose you'd say, and they've got some sort of op-art design on that looks like it's sort of spinning the other way, and things like that. And little rooms where you can sort of get inside the illusion. You can go and pose inside it, and they take your photo again. It's one of those wonky rooms where there's the floor that slopes up and the ceiling that slopes down, so it looks like you're big at one side and small at the other. But when you look at it from the front, it looks like forced perspective. Am I explaining this well? I don't know if I am. There's one where you stand on a little glass circle in the floor, and there's another. It's like a Super Mario tube above you, and it looks like if you turn the photo upside down, it looks like you're falling into the Super Mario tube. And then anyway, you that's sort of quarter of an hour, 20 minutes entertainment, I suppose. And then you walk out into the gift shop, and you can buy the photos, of course. I sort of thought, what did we come here for? Go on, I'll do what seems like the best deal, which is you get 4 digital photos for a tenner. I thought, yeah, that does seem quite a lot for 4 digital photos. But go on then. Go on then. I haven't spent a lot beyond the pass. Let's do it. Let's do it. And, I haven't even looked at these digital photos that I paid a tenner for. They know how to get money out of you, don't they? Would I recommend The Wonderful World of Professor Skettles? It's one of those things that I can see that I can kind of see what they're trying to do. It just seems a bit disjointed. I don't understand how the opening story introducing this character then leads into the optical illusions. It just seems a bit of a somebody had an idea, and somebody else had an idea, and they sort of seized them together, and maybe it didn't really gel. I like the idea. I like the idea. I'm just not sure that the execution really worked. And yeah, the paying for photos business. I'm not very big on the paying for photos business. I mean, I can take photos on my phone of anything. But then I did actually pay for the photos, didn't I? I did pay for the photos. I'm sure I did. I remember paying for the photos. They got me. Um, yeah, so if you're interested in that sort of thing, I suppose it's worth a look. If you've got the pass. But yeah, I don't think I'd pay for the photos again. I don't really know why I paid for the photos. I can't really explain that. Maybe I was just caught up in the moment. Yeah, so we walked down to the boat tour. The boat tour again. I've done it before. I've done it a couple of times actually. But again, it's something that I've just enjoyed. It's sort of nice and relaxing, tootling up and down the river on the boat, listening to stories. I think it's not something that my son was particularly excited about, but as I say, I wanted to do it. And yeah, we sat on the boat. They have a little bar on the boat, so you can go and get drinks and snacks and things. Just watch the city go by. You have a little narrator telling you what happened where, what all the things you can see are. It's nice. It's nice. So and that was the end of our trip. Yeah, so went back to the car and went home after that. Yeah, it was definitely worth doing. It was very different. It was absolute. Well, I've already said, haven't I? It's a big contrast to Birmingham as a city. I used to have this idea that cities are all the same. You know, they've all got a Primark and a Starbucks and a McDonald's. So why would you bother going to another city? Um, but no, yeah, there's so many different things going on in each place that it is. I go back on that. I take that back. I think it is worth visiting different cities and seeing all the different histories, getting the personality of the place. I think it is a very different experience. Going to one city and going to another. I came back, feeling that I'd had a good time. It was worth the money. I think all in all, with the hotel, the attraction pass, and food and snacks, and things that are bought along the way, it cost about £600. I worked out for 4 days. I think that was £600 well spent. The trip to Birmingham, we actually spent 5 days there. That was closer to 1,000 when I totted everything up, which that was a lot. Felt like a lot. I think that's just sort of edging into quite expensive for a holiday. But I came back from Birmingham feeling very emotionally altered. And maybe because it has, sort of connections to people and events in the past. Whereas York, not so much. And also, I have been to York numerous times for days out, and as I say, I'm fairly familiar with bits of it. It's kind of doing the same thing again. feel like the experience of just going somewhere with my son as well is something that's it's something that I think is important for both of us, because I have a younger child as well. You know, she wouldn't get the same sort of enjoyment out of going to museums and things that my older child does. When my youngest is a bit older, I will probably take her to these places again, do it all again with her. I suppose it's that first child thing, isn't it? Everything's just a test. We're just trying out parenting with the first child, and then we'll do it for real with the second one. No, I don't feel that same sort of emotional movement that I did when I came back from Birmingham. That same sort of poignancy. I got no post-holiday blues or anything like that. And maybe because it is nearby as well. So a little tootle up the A19. It's it doesn't really feel like you've been on holiday all night. It feels like you've had several days out in a row. I don't know. I'm not absolute. I've got a lot of theories as to why. I don't have that same emotional reaction to it, but I don't know for sure. Yeah, I'd definitely go again. There were things that I would have liked to have seen that I didn't get to see. We didn't get to see, well, as I say, we missed the Barley Hall. I'd have liked to have a look at Dig. As I say, I'd like to see if it is like a replacement for Ark, which I went to as a child, but didn't get around to. And I'd like to see the chocolate story as well. We didn't manage to squeeze that in. Yeah, and the Yorkshire Museum, the one in the park, do that, and the art gallery. And again, there's things that you can't do when you are with a child. You know, you can't do the sort of nosing around in antique shops and sort of sitting in pubs for hours and things that you can do when you're with adult friends. And then sorry, I just forgot what I was going to say. What was I going to say? Yes, yeah, it's definitely worth a look. It's a very good day out. It's a great weekend away. I mean, we could have spent easily another day there. Looking at the attraction thing, is it somewhere I'd want to live? Probably not. It feels like a holiday being there. It doesn't feel like you're walking around a home. I mean, obviously people do live there and work there and so on, but it's it is such a tourist trap that yeah, I think it would be hard work living there. I don't know. Do people who live in places actually, go to the attractions? I don't know. I lived in Doncaster 34 years and never, ever, ever went to the racecourse. Yeah, York, worth a look. Enjoyed it. Would go again. Probably will go again, because as I say, it's not far. Where next? I'm thinking Edinburgh, but my son would like to go to Wales. We don't really know where in Wales. I suppose we could go castling, couldn't we? Just go around touring castles in Wales. I don't know if he'd find that a bit boring eventually if he gets bored at castles. We'll have to see. We'll see. And when will it happen? Well, it was 6 months since we've been to Birmingham, and I mean the problem is just finding a block of free days as much as anything. Yes, so that was our trip to York. That was the travelling Auties visit York, and we had a lovely time. And we'll see you in the next one.